Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel for a good old-fashioned book haul. These are all the books that have made their way into my life in 2024 so far, and without further ado, let's take a look at them, shall we? I'm actually I'm really excited about the first book I have to show you because, and I know this is probably getting old at this point, it's a book I wrote, so I hope you don't mind, but I did receive my author copies of my latest book, all the Violet Tiaras, since I last filmed a book haul, and it has since come out, so I did want to share it with you all. This is part of the Inkling series, which is published by 404 Ink, an independent Scottish publisher, who have this series I've talked about before, which are like short, small, niche non-fiction books that do like a deep dive on something super niche. And I believe I own almost all the books in the series. I've read quite a few of them. I love them, and naturally I pitched my own when they were open for pitches, so if this is something you're interested in, it's worth keeping an eye out. They open up for pitches once or twice a year, where basically they'll take your pitch for your book. You don't have to have written the book yet, you just need to pitch it to them and why you're the person to write it, and they then publish like a little batch of them annually. So I was part of the most recent batch, which is ongoing, and mine's is obviously all about queering the Greek myths. It's all about modern day, particularly 21st century, but also some 20th century retellings and reimaginings and books inspired by Greek mythology, which are queer, and kind of how the queer community has like found this safe place, this place of exploration, this place of community and connection through these myths and these retellings. At least that's kind of the best way I can sum it up. I do like a bit of a deep dive analysis on a bunch of books, and also like kind of their wider social context in the modern world and the queer community, as well as providing some like ancient historiography and background to them, to sort of situate them in the antiquity and in the modern day. So yeah, I loved writing this book. It was an absolute labour of love. It was a very personal book to write because obviously it touched on sexuality and experiences of my own sexuality and everything like that. So yeah, it was a roller coaster. I'm so excited it's out there in the world. I've had such kind messages from all of you since this book came out, and can I just say, like, every single one of them just like has taken up a little place in my heart. So thank you so much to those of you who have read it and got in touch about it, because it means the world. And I did also want to mention, whilst I was talking about this book, how you might get it if you're not in the UK or the EU, because a few of you have messaged me from the US, in particular the US and Canada, saying you'd like to read it, but it's not published in the US. It's published, like I said, by an indie publisher here in the UK. And that means it might not just naturally be stocked in your bookstores, but that doesn't mean you can't get it. And I think one thing a lot of people have felt a little bit lacking since Book Depository went under and has disappeared off the face of the earth, is a book that does international free shipping. And I just wanted to draw your attention to Wordery. I'm not affiliated to this company at all, but Wordery is an online bookstore which I really love and have used for years, which offer free international shipping. All the Violet Tiaras is on there. You can pick up a physical copy no matter where you are in the world if that's somewhere you want it. I think there are other online bookshops that do similar things, but I have used Wordery and had experience with them in the past, and it's what I've been recommending to other people when they've asked for where they can buy this book, because like I said, it does have free shipping. So yeah, that's just to mention that in case you're one of the people who've asked and I haven't gotten back to you yet. Yeah, I've just turned this book haul into a little ramble about my own book, but I was so excited to get this in the post. It just feels so cool to have an Inkling. Like I said, I love this series, so to like have one of those little books and to have my name on it is just, my name's not there, why am I putting there? To have my name on it, it's like so cool, and this is a topic that I just find so interesting. So yeah, that's book number one. Let's move on to the books I didn't write, shall we? So next up is actually another non-fiction book. This is the next book on my pile, and it has a sticker on it here, so I'm going to take that off, which I have read, so I can talk about it. And this is like a 5 out of 5 star non-fiction book, so could not recommend it more highly. It's Women's Lore, 4,000 Years of Sirens, Serpents and Succubi by Sarah Clegg. So this is a history book. It's a history non-fiction book of a specific sort of thread throughout world mythology and folklore and belief and religion, and that is of the sort of serpentine water monster demon magical creature. So they're not always an actual serpent, but it's showing the connection from like somebody as old as Lamashtu and Lamia from like ancient Mesopotamia, through Lilith to the much more modern European mermaid, and tracing the ties between those women in culture and in religion and mythology throughout 4,000 years. And it's so well done. I found this book really fascinating. I love that it like deep dove into like one specific thread in mythology. You know, this is a woman, if we consider her the same woman, she's also like many women who has been a demoness, who has been a goddess, who has been a sort of fairy type creature, who has helped women, who has hindered women, who has been a symbol of misogyny, who has been reclaimed by women. And it's fascinating, and it's fascinating to see that thread throughout time, because this is obviously something I'm very interested in my own research, is kind of the threads of myths that kind of continue throughout time and how they change. And it is also a history of women, because in particular when we're looking at like the ancient cultures and their relationship with Lamashtu and Lamia, we're looking at women who were creating amulets and incantations was the word I was looking for there, to protect themselves and protect their children from stillbirth and miscarriages, and that's how this like demon and this goddess was perceived in these early texts. And we're also getting an insight into their lives and the way that women pass down stories and women pass down mythology and ideas, and how it's like part of our lives and has been for such a long time. And it does all of that stuff. Obviously I can't summarize the whole book, but I thought it was phenomenal. And I actually listened to an audiobook on Otherlands, which is what Scribd is now known as. So if you're looking for the audiobook, it's on there. But I was enjoying it so much and knew I was going to want to refer back to it and like look back on things I'd read in it and look up references in it and other books referenced in it, that I needed the physical copy. So I went and picked up the paperback, which just recently came out. So I actually kind of bought this book on the back of already loving it and having listened to it. It's just phenomenal. Moving away from non-fiction though onto some fiction, I actually have 3 books which are all special editions, because this year is also the year that I have become a Bookish subscription box subscriber once more. I've not been subscribed to a Bookish subscription box in quite some time, and that's mainly I think because a lot of them were very heavily focused on fantasy and YA titles that I wasn't as drawn to. I've like slowly been less interested in YA fantasy as a genre. I prefer my adult fantasy, and also just I have a lot of fantasy, so I haven't wanted to subscribe to a fantasy box, which feels like what is one of the more popular genres to get in subscription boxes. But after doing a little bit of research, I realised that Illumicrate, which do also have a SFF box, have 2 other subscription services, one of which is a every 3-month subscription of horror, and one of which is another monthly subscription of romance, which don't come with any like knickknacks, which is great if you don't want those kind of things. Like I don't necessarily need the knickknacks you get in a subscription box. I just want a nice edition of a book and to be surprised with a book that I won't already have on my bookshelves. So I subscribed to both of those. I was actually on the waiting list for both of them for a few months. Like I joined the waiting list last year and then got my first subscription from them in January. So if you do have to join the waiting list, you will eventually get on it. I did eventually get on it, and I did pay for these. I've not been sent them, so I thought I'd show you the 3 books I've got from those subscriptions. The first one is horror, and it is from the Evernight box. I am so excited to have a horror subscription box. That in particular was the one I was like, I need the horror subscription box because I'm always looking for new horror. And I was so pleased when this book came in the post, because I actually was really eagerly anticipating this book. The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland being the latest book by Crystal Sutherland, and I had actually read her previous horror book in 2023 and adored it, so like I knew I wanted to read this book this year, and to have a beautiful special edition of it, which like, this is gorgeous. Like look at that the sprayed spine on that, and then the cover I'm gonna show you because just look at the end papers and the underneath. It's just beautiful. I knew I wanted to read this anyway, is basically what I'm saying, so I'm very happy to have a beautiful edition of it. And from what I understand from the blurb, this book is about two women who are both trying to track down the same person that has something to do with demons. So in a sense, I think it becomes about three women. So they're both trying to track her down for different reasons. One, because there's like been a serial killer and her sister was one of the victims, the other because they have this demon who's either possessing them or like hanging around with them, and they become involved in the same hunt to find this other woman who might be able to help them, and it's like dark and creepy and there's murders happening, etc. So I'm just really excited because I loved Crystal Sutherland's other book, and I'm sure I'm gonna love this one. Then I have two books from the Afterlight subscription box, which is their adult romance subscription box. The first of which I'm so excited about is At First Spite by Olivia Dade, and Olivia Dade is a romance author that so many people have been telling me I love, especially since I recently uploaded my top 10 contemporary romance video. So many people were like, Jean, you'd love Olivia Dade, why haven't you read her yet? And I have no reason, and now I have to because I have this beautiful edition of her latest book. Again, look at those sprayed edges. Look at that gorgeous cover. Then look at the inside. There's like even more illustrations and the beautiful hardback underneath. They are gorgeous. It is nice sometimes to just have like a really beautiful edition of a book, right? Isn't it? I feel like this must be such a special feeling as an author to get like a special edition of your book made for a subscription box, you know. It's the kind of thing I dream of, I have to say. And I'm really, really excited about this one. It's about a woman named Athena whose fiance breaks off their engagement, but she just bought the house like next to his, I think this little house here, which is also next to his brother's house, so she ends up living in between them, and I think her revenge is to get on with the brother, but maybe finds out that he's actually the man for her all along. So I don't know what else to expect, but everyone says she's a phenomenal author, so can't wait. And then we have a book that I 100% would not have picked up. And that is the fun thing about subscription boxes, right? You're taking the risk, and I'm still excited to read it, but I just definitely wouldn't have picked it for myself, so it'll be fun to try. And that's Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. Now, it's not because of the author. I have actually read Tessa Bailey before and really enjoyed her books. One of her books was on my top 10 contemporary romances of all time video, but it's the fact that this is like a golf romance. And I can't think of anything less appealing. Like, golf? Really? Generally speaking, I'm not a sports romance girl because I couldn't care less about sports in general. Like, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not a sports girl. So the idea of like a sort of golf fangirl is hard for me to relate to, but I'm here for it. I'm willing to try it. And we have our grumpy golfer and his like biggest fan who believes in him when his career is kind of, I think, spiraling down, and she's here to root for him, and obviously they fall in love. But again, we have a gorgeous edition where the sort of illustration of the golf course continues onto the sprayed spine. Then we have another illustration of them inside, and a lovely little gold embossing on the hardback. So yeah, it will be fun to try, and I have enjoyed sport romances before. I'm just not normally drawn to them. So yeah, those were my subscription box surprises, which I'm really excited about, but let's look at some books I specifically bought. First up, we have a sequel, and that is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This is obviously the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which is a sort of alternative history. It's set in a kind of like late 1800s, early 1900s version of our world, but not quite the same. Fantasy novel. It's like cozy and comforting and cute and heartwarming and magical, and I loved it. So I was really excited for this book coming out this year. I haven't read it yet, but I'm very, very excited for the sequel. We follow Emily Wilde, who is a academic who studies fairies, and she goes off on a research trip to a very like small Icelandic island. It's not a real island, but it seems to be inspired by that area, and to study their fairies naturally, but things don't go quite as planned. There's a very cute little academic romance between her and one of her colleagues, and I loved it. I loved book one, so naturally I'm really excited for book two. We then have another book by an author I love that I've already read, so I can already say this was fantastic, and that is Night Will Find You by Julia Heberlin. And I think this might be Julia Heberlin's best book to date. I have read quite a few Julia Heberlin thrillers in the past. She's one of my favourite thriller writers. I love her prose. She creates such a rich atmosphere, and I think if not all of her books, most of her books are set in the South, in the USA, particularly in Texas, and she always creates this really rich atmosphere that makes me feel like I'm there, and I can like feel the heat on my skin, and I love it, and I love the world she creates and the characters she creates. They've always got a lot of depth to them, and I think to this, and up until this point, my favourite book I'd read by her was Black Eyed Susans, which is the book that's referenced here, but this book is special. So I don't know, this could be my new favourite. It's really, really well done. It's about Vivi, who is an astrophysicist, but she's also a psychic. She doesn't call herself a psychic, but she is a psychic. And it's not one of those books where you're like, does she really see things? Does she really hear things? She does. Like, she's definitely a psychic, and she definitely hears and sees things. And because of that, she ends up helping the police, specifically because one of the police officers is a man who she saved when they were kids. So they grew up together, and she saved him through one of her visions, and he therefore has this faith in her gift, and he asks her to help with this case, and she ends up working with another police officer who's much more skeptical to find this missing girl and what happened to her. And it's just so well done. I love Vivi as a character because she has these sort of kind of two big parts of her, the astrophysicist and the psychic, and kind of how those mesh and how she views the world, and it's really beautiful. She feels like so fully fleshed, and I really enjoyed her dynamics with all of the different characters. There was some interactions that made me angry, but I liked the way they were done, and I thought it created a really well-rounded story, and all those kind of like complications of her personal and private life, as well as this kind of case that she's involved in. It's really, really well done. I think like Vivi makes the book for me, and I really, really enjoyed this thriller. I can't wait to see what Julia Heberlin does in the future. Another super anticipated book for me this year is Bora Chung's latest collection to have been translated into English. So this is Your Utopia, which originally was written in Korean, and I read another collection by this author called Cursed Bunny, which is a collection of Korean horror stories that I adored. Not last year, I don't think, but the year before. And when I found out, obviously, that Bora Chung had a new collection coming out in English, I was so excited and immediately picked it up. I've not read it yet, but I'm definitely going to be reading it very, very soon. It's published by Honford Star, and it's this lovely sort of like French flap kind of paperback. And yeah, I don't really know anything about this apart from that it's a short story collection. I'm assuming it's also going to be a little bit creepy given Cursed Bunny, but I don't know if it even is specifically horror. Stories are described as haunting, funny, gross and terrifying, but they're also sort of stories of loss and discovery, idealism, dystopia, death and immortality. So they might be more surrealist short stories than necessarily straightforward horror. I don't care. I loved Bora Chung's writing, and I'm just excited to read more by them. I did actually pick up another short story collection though, a horror short story collection, and that is 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Basterica. And the back reads, in these tense, chilling stories, bodies fall from the sky, perfectly manicured nails conceal grisly secrets, and violence pulses behind gleaming facades. From hellish visions to obsessive relationships, Augustina Basterica takes us to the dark heart of human desires and fears. I have been really craving some more horror short story collections, and this is an author who came up a lot when I was like searching for them online as recommended. So yeah, I bought it on a whim, and I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy it. Kind of in a similar vein, actually, we have another short story collection, but this is actually a anthology called Penny Bloods, Gothic Tales of Dangerous Women, edited by Nicole C. Dittmer and published by the British Library. So this is part of a series that the British Library do of these lovely hardback books, typically of kind of like creepy stories, but also like fairy tales and mythology. So I have a few of the other ones, including one called Celtic Weird and Fearsome Fairies, which have obviously a bit more of a focus on the like mythological fairy tale side of things, but still being creepy, whereas this is more about like your kind of classic penny dreadful stories with a focus on women. So we have collected in here stories by Elizabeth Caroline Gray, James Malcolm Rymer, Malcolm J. Erim, Septimus R. Urban. I actually don't know a lot of these authors. I know James Malcolm Rymer, but I don't think I've read any of the other authors, so that's actually really cool. Maybe I'll discover some more interesting like classics, but these are all stories that were generally published in the 18 and 1900s, and I just love this series. I've really enjoyed them so far, and I'm going to keep picking them up as they come out. They're also beautiful. I mean, look at this. Stunning. I actually do have some more non-fiction though to show you, so I'll get to that next, including this book, which is a history/art book called Love, A Curious History in 50 Objects by Edward Brooke Hitching. So this is one of those books that like takes the approach of selecting a variety of objects and looking at a historical subject through them. So obviously in this case love, and that includes kind of sex, kissing, romance, marriage, through a variety of different objects. And we've got like letters, we've got books, we've got paintings, we've got physical artifacts in here. I have flipped through and read some sections, and I'm trying to find some that are kind of appropriate to show on camera that I might not get demonetized for. But here we've got this, here we actually have a painted scroll, which is a depiction of Fuxi and Nuwa from Chinese mythology. We've got the Ice Age batons. We've got one of the Ice Age batons there. At least that's what they're known as. We've got these tiny little eye portraits, which are fascinating. I haven't looked at what those are about before, actually. I mean, I think my immediate reaction when I picked this up was to look at the kind of ancient stuff in it, because that's who I am. But there's a like real breadth of history covered here, from like prehistory really until like the modern ages through the medieval times and antiquity. We have some tapestries, we have a mixture of things, but we have like, you know, like the earliest depictions of kissing in art. But to be honest, I mean, the title's probably self-explanatory. Either you find this interesting or you don't. Sometimes I don't know if I'm adding anything when I tell you about these books, but I thought this sounded fascinating, and I've really enjoyed the little sections of it that I have read so far. It's more of a book that I personally would flip through and read individual like objects at a time, not necessarily in order, but just go like, I'm interested in learning about the Kama Sutra today, and it's really interesting. And I think it's a really diverse and interesting collection of items. I think the author has brought together some really interesting items. Yes, it is an interesting book. There we go. I know what I'm talking about. We then have a non-fiction book I was sent by the publisher, and that is Pax Romana, The Plague That Shook the Roman World. And this is another one I've actually started. I've only read chapter 1, so I'm not like terribly far into it, but this book is about the Antonine Plague, which is a pandemic slash disease that we believe killed a lot of people in the 2nd century CE. And what Professor Colin Elliott has done here is like tried to do a bit more of like a deep dive and give us a better understanding of this plague and what we can piece together about it, and how it then like affected the next century, what we can like understand about kind of Roman society and the Roman Empire for that time, about the way that they approached this plague, etc, etc. And some have said that this might even be like the earliest recorded pandemic. So it's a really interesting topic, and it's one I'm looking forward to learning more about, because it's not something I have read much on at all. Another non-fiction book I bought myself is Girl Online, A User Manual by Joanna Walsh. This is published by Verso. I don't think you can even see the title. It's easier to see in person, but it's not, it's not very bold, but that's the title, which is obviously a very short non-fiction book about, and I'm sure you'll be shocked to hear this, being a woman online. So the blurb reads, Girl Online is an anti-user manifesto exploring the terms and conditions that women must negotiate to appear online. On commercial platforms, vloggers, bloggers, and influencers are offered a devil's bargain: visibility on the condition they present as eternally youthful, cute and responsibility free, paying for their online presence with accounts of personal experience. A user is what is used. How does one woman negotiate the cyberspace between her identities as a worker, mother, artist and fluid, commodified online persona? How do her hidden care work as well as her professional and emotional labour play out online? Are the platforms offered by social media a trap or an opportunity for survival, creativity and resistance? So this is obviously very specifically from Joanna Walsh's perspective, but I think I'm going to find it really interesting as somebody who has been making online content for over a decade and has had many glimpses into this world. I mean, you probably won't be surprised by the number of creepy comments I've had over recent years commenting on the fact that I have aged. oh my goodness, and I don't look the same as I did when people started watching me when I was 20, and you know, that's not as attractive to them, and I'm so sorry, I'm in my 30s now. And it's just like so bizarre to kind of grow up online, as much as I love making content and being part of this world online, and as much as I've gained from it, people say some weird things. So I'm sure I'm going to relate to some of the stuff on this, because you know, I have disappointed many a creepy older man on the internet for aging myself, so yeah. Another book that is actually an ARC that I was gifted by the author, and I'm so excited to read, and is one of my most anticipated releases of the year. It's now out, so you can pick up your own copy, is Truthfully Yours by Caden Armstrong. So this is a contemporary romance set in Scotland. And it's about Paige, who is autistic. She's also bisexual, so I love me some bi rep. And she decides to call out some ableism at a convention during a panel for a show that she's been watching. And the ableism that she calls out, and when she calls out this ableism, it ends up going, I think, like viral online, and she doesn't get a great response from the actor she called out, and she decides she needs a break. So she goes to stay in a little flat above a bookshop and rent it out from the owner, who is away at the minute. And it turns out that the brother of this bookshop owner is the co-star of the man she called out. So not the man she called out, not the ableist guy, but his co-star. And he actually thinks Paige is amazing. He was so impressed by the way she called out his co-star, and they end up bonding and falling in love. I know firsthand how much love Caden has poured into this book, and it's been getting phenomenal reviews since it came out, so I would highly recommend picking it up. I can't wait to read it myself. Then we have a middle grade book, and I actually bought this on the recommendation of a bookseller. I was in Waterstones buying a book for a child, so I was in the children's book section, and I ended up picking up another book for them that I was familiar with, but the bookseller in Waterstones started telling me about this book, and I was like, well, I actually just want that for myself because that sounds amazing. So I took it home, and that is Paper Dragons, The Fight for the Hidden Realm by Siobhan McDermott, and it's also a gorgeous like Waterstone special edition that has these little jellyfish sprayed on the edge, so you know, bonus. And the blurb reads, an extraordinary destiny unfolds. 12-year-old Ji Jing has always been an outcast until she receives an invitation to Hokwo, an underwater school that offers her the chance to become immortal and finally belong. There she battles in hair-raising dragon boat races, meets age-shifting tutors, and competes in thrilling trials. But there are rumours of a growing dark force and students who feel the trials are disappearing. Can Ji Jing uncover the truth before it's too late? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. The way that the bookseller just talked about this book was with such enthusiasm that, you know, like I said, absolutely sold it to me, so cannot wait to read this. Definitely in the mood for some middle grade. I haven't read some in a while, so this sounds like the perfect one to get into it with. And that actually brings me to the end of this book haul. So those are the books that have come into my life in 2024 so far, some of which I've read and have loved. In fact, everything I have read so far I've loved, and everything I'm reading at the minute I'm really enjoying, so that's a great sign, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of them. Would love to hear if you have read any of them, or think I should pick any of them up next in particular, or there's any you'd like to hear more about and I can maybe make some content around. Maybe Girl Online is the kind of book I should be filming a reading vlog for. I mean, you know, it really might be actually, so let me know about that one, and until next time, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye everyone.